In the last stream, we were working on getting started with the Forever Factory mod pack. We made our very first basic mechanism, and then we used that to set up a couple of create contraptions. We also got a arboreal extractor up and running, producing resin for us, and we made a multi-block coke oven from the immersive engineering mod. Since the end of the last stream, I've done a little bit more tree farming to get us even more money. You'll see we're at $24,000 right now, and I've put more oak logs into here to start passively generating creosote, because as we saw in the last episode, this is a very, very slow multi-block, and so if we do need a large amount of creosote, which I think we might, given that there is a quest here for making treated wooden planks, I figured it was better to get a head start on that sooner rather than later. And while that does its thing, my plan for today's stream is going to be to try and basically fully automate the production of this basic mechanism. I want the whole process from start to finish to be automated. I want to have buyers buying all of the andesite and all of the iron that we need. I want all of that stuff to be processed automatically by a create setup, and then I want to automatically be selling those basic mechanisms back to the shop to hopefully automate the production of cash, to see our balance in the top left there going up without us having to actively do any work whatsoever. The first step towards doing that is actually getting rid of all of these big cogwheels and small cogwheels, because one thing that I did not know at the end of the last stream is that in this pack, the recipe for the rotational speed controller, this guy right here, has been tweaked. Or should I say specifically, the recipe for the precision mechanism here has been tweaked to where it doesn't actually require, none of this requires, that we get any electron tubes. Usually these are required in the making of the rotational speed controller. These require redstone and nether quartz, things that we don't currently have. However, in this pack, we just need one brass casing, which is brass on a stripped log, and we need one precision mechanism, which is one gold plate deployed with a cogwheel, a large cogwheel, and an iron nugget 5 times. And the deployers as well, which also usually do require those electron tubes in this pack, just require the andesite machinery with a brass hand, which requires the brass sheets. So the one ingredient that we don't currently have is brass. However, as we saw at the very end of the last episode, we do now have access to Chapter 2, and the very first quest in the Chapter 2 questline here is to make 8 kiln brick to get a kiln multi-block. This is going to allow us to produce alloys like brass by combining copper and zinc. And so to make the kiln brick, of which we only need 8, we just need to get some brick and some sandstone. Now, currently we do have some sand and we do have some brick. We don't quite have enough sand to make enough sandstone. We're going to need equal amounts of brick and sandstone. However, between streams, I have gone ahead and updated the pack to the newest version, and in the newest version of the pack, you can now make sand using this millstone right here. We can turn gravel into sand. It is only a 33% chance, which is not great, but it's better than not being able to generate it at all, and thankfully the millstone is pretty easy to make as well. We just need one andesite machinery with 1 stone and 1 cogwheel. We do appear to be fully out of cogwheels. That, thankfully, is not going to be a problem for us. We can make those very easily with shaft and with planks. Good stuff. And then in terms of the stone, I actually don't think we have any, although we probably can use andesite here in place of stone to make that millstone. We totally can. We could, of course, have mined some cobblestone and smelted it, but this is fairly straightforward, and we do have quite a bit of cash, so I'm not going to worry about it too much just yet. Now, one thing we probably do want to do here is tap into this system for the time being. And to do that, we're going to want to swap our gearbox for a vertical gearbox. That's not going to affect the mechanical saws here, but it is going to allow me to put a cogwheel down right about there, which is then going to allow me to put the millstone down right about here and begin spinning that to turn gravel into sand. So I think we can also do the same to turn cobble into gravel. I think that also works via the millstone. It totally does. And so all we should have to do here is jump on up, throw basically as much cobble as we like into the millstone. That's going to start to slowly but surely transform into gravel. And then if we want to get 3 more sandstone so that we can make 4 more kiln bricks, we're going to need like 12 sand. Given that it's only a 1 in 3, that probably means we want to put in about 36 gravel-ish, maybe more, just to guarantee that we do in fact get it. And so I guess what I'll do is I'll throw all the cobblestone in here, we'll leave that doing its thing, and I'm going to quickly do a little bit more cobblestone mining whilst we wait for that to process, just to make sure we've got enough cobble to do whatever else we want to do going forward, and to also make sure that we get enough sand here to hopefully get enough gravel to make this kiln. Once this is done, by the way, you can shift right click to get all of the gravel out, and then from there we just need to drop that back in to the top like so, and that's going to begin to process that hopefully into a decent amount of sand. This does seem to be quite fast actually. That number at the top is going down surprisingly quickly, and 12 sand is the number that we're after. I'll probably leave the gravel in here and process all of it even once we do get to 12 sand, just because I think it's going to be useful for us to have extra sand lying around in case we want to make glass or anything else like that going forward. But I think we should be pretty much good to go here. We are indeed perfect. There's 17 sand. Let me quickly craft up 3 more of these, and that should be everything that we need for the 8 kiln brick, at which point we can throw this down. This is a 2x2 multi-block, and then much like the cook oven before it, because this is also from immersive engineering, we just need to right click with our engineer's hammer on the side that we want to be the front of the machine to form the multi-block. And now we can place fuel into the bottom slot, and we just need to combine copper and zinc to make brass. 1 brass ingot will complete the quest. However, if we want to get the rotational speed controller, that means that we're going to need 1 brass for the machine casing, and then we're going to need 4 more brass for the brass hand required for the deployer. Now, you don't necessarily need 3 deployers to make this happen. You can do this with 1 deployer. It's a little bit more janky, but it probably would make our lives a little bit easier if we did get 3 deployers for this. Also, if we look just a step further ahead at the basic mechanism, people have pointed out that this recipe right here that uses the deployers is significantly more efficient than this recipe right here with the mechanical mixer. So I'm going to remove this as default. You'll see here, this takes 1 shaft, 1 plank, 1 andesite alloy, and 1 cogwheel, and in return we get 1 basic mechanism. However, if we use the sequence recipe with the deployers, we have the same ingredients here, 1 plank, 1 alloy, 1 cogwheel, and 1 shaft, but we get 4 basic mechanisms out of it. There is a 20% chance, or a 1 in 5, that we don't actually get anything from this, but because you get 4 times as much, it still works out better in the long run, and because this is going to be fully automated, this is in fact just a much better result for us in terms of the amount that we get out of our base resources. And so it is worth us getting these deployers because we're going to need to use them anyway later in the pack to get those basic mechanisms. And so if we want to make 3 deployers, that means that we need 12 brass sheets plus the initial one, means we need 13 brass sheets. Brass here is an alloy between copper and zinc, and if we want to get 13 of these, we're going to have to make 14 because they're made in sets of 2. It basically means we need 7 copper and 7 zinc. Thankfully, copper is super cheap. In here, it's just $10. Zinc is twice as expensive, but is still relatively cheap compared to the amount of money that we have. And so let's quickly go ahead and drop both of these into the furnaces here to smelt those up. And as soon as they are ready in ingot form, we can move them over to the alloy kiln to begin producing the brass. Boom. And boom, let's drop both of these in here, boom, and boom. And I guess while we wait for that to do its thing, let's see if there's anything else we can make. I don't really think there is. We do need to run this gold plate here through 5 times to get 1 precision mechanism. Thankfully, we do only need 1 of those. We are going to have to throw down a log and strip it. That's going to be used to make the casing, like that. Fantastic. Again, you can shift right click with the engineer's hammer to pick that up more quickly than you can with a pickaxe. And then I guess we should also probably reset up our mechanical press as well so we can start turning the brass into brass sheets. Now, we could put this here on the end, but then we'd have to put the depot in the floor, which is a little bit awkward. What I think I might do, because we're going to move all of this momentarily anyway when we move the large cogwheels and small cogwheels, I think I'm going to do this and like this. And that will work, I guess, temporarily whilst we make these hands, which we should now have all the brass we're going to need to make it. We've already got the brass casing, so that is perfect. So now we just need this guy right here. Of course, for that we need the 3 deployers. I do believe that we still have a couple of andesite machinery. We do, but we do need 1 more here to make all of the hands that we're going to need. And for that, we need 1 more basic mechanism, which we have, and of course, the enigmatic hammer, which we also thankfully do have. Boom. And so I think we're pretty much good to go now, as soon as we get ourselves 12 brass plates. And 12 brass sheets later, we can now make 3 brass hands, and we can make 3 deployers. Nice. It's also probably going to make sense for us to get a few more depots here as well. Again, that should not be tricky. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And again, we can shift right click to pick those up nice and fast, and that should be everything we need for 3 more depots. And now we just need to place these down with the deployers above them. Again, where we're going to do this is a different question. I think for now we can probably move these, probably move this, and have the deployers down next to the mechanical press here. If we place down 1, 2, 3 depots, we can then just right click on the depots like this, shift right click I should say, to place down the deployers like so. And if we want to get that first precision mechanism, we need to get 5 small cogwheels, 5 big cogwheels, and 5 iron nuggets. Again, none of that should be difficult. The iron nuggets, super easy. The cogwheels, also very straightforward. We'll go for 5. And the big cogwheels, also very easy. We will also go for 5. So over here, we put the small cogwheels in first, then the large cogwheels in second, and then finally the iron nuggets in third, like this. From there, to make the precision mechanism, we need to get a gold plate. Thankfully, in the last episode, we did make a few gold plates because we were going to make the wrench from Create. We then realized that we actually didn't need the wrench from Create. And now we just have to move this across between all of these depots. And you'll see that right here it says progress is 3 out of 15. That's because we need to run it through these 5 times, 15 steps in total. And once we get to the end of this, there is an 80% chance that we get a precision mechanism. So there is a 1 in 5 chance that we don't get anything. If that happens, we just have to do it again with 5 more small cogwheels, 5 more big cogwheels, and 5 more iron nuggets. But there's a pretty good chance here that we should get a precision mechanism. Nice. At which point, we can go ahead and craft up the rotational speed controller. This is super useful because it allows us to get rid of all of these big cogwheels and small cogwheels, and instead, we can just put down 1 rotational speed controller, like this. Then we can put a large cogwheel into that rotational speed controller, and now, using this number on the front, whilst looking at it, we can hold right click, and then we can move this number up and down. So instead of having it set to whatever the default is, we could go all the way up to 256x, and we immediately get a massive increase to speed, which will allow all of our machines to run faster without having to have that giant abomination of small cogwheels and big cogwheels. You can also move this up to the top, and that's going to rotate it to spin in the opposite direction as well. So you can really configure this to spin however fast and in whichever direction you like, which is great. And so now that we have that, we can kind of finally focus in on automating the production of this basic mechanism. To do that, we need to automate the production of planks, of andesite alloy, of cogwheels, and of shaft. Most of that should be pretty straightforward. So to automate the production of planks, we kind of did this a little bit in the last episode. We made these 2 mechanical saws, and we saw that if we use a buyer to buy logs automatically from the store, we should then be able to pump those logs through the mechanical saws, and that's going to turn it into first a stripped log and then into 6 planks. That is really all we have to do there. We then need to take those planks and split the ones that come out of that, because we need some of the planks to go into crafting the cogwheel here. We can do that either with an automated whisk or with a deployer. I think we'll use the whisk here because there's really no difference in recipe and we don't have an extra deployer lying around. So I think the mixer makes sense, especially now that we're not going to use the mixer for the final craft. Then we have the shaft, which we can make much more efficiently by running andesite alloy over another mechanical saw. So it is going to be in our best interest here to make yet another mechanical saw. Again, that should be very easy for us to do. And in fact, I should probably get a large number of these andesite casings just so we don't have to keep making those individually every time that we need one. Also, over here, we can, of course, begin looking at making yet more iron plates. But now we can actually do it over here like this. And I think one up like this to do this. Nice. And again, we can make this real fast if we have enough stress. Right now, that's trying to use too much. That's fine. We can bring that down to anything under 128, I believe, is going to work just fine for us. That's the maximum. Actually, no, we can do even higher than that, right? We can do 192. That's the maximum that we have in terms of stress units, 1,536. And there we go. That's our third mechanical saw. Good stuff. And so now, the next big problem, I think, is actually getting stuff around, because up until now we've been moving everything around manually, but it's probably about time that we do look at getting some belts going here so we can start to move items around automatically. And we probably also want to look at getting some of these funnels as well so that we can start inserting and extracting more easily from different parts of our create setup. For that, we are going to need to combine some dried kelp with some andesite alloy. That's fine. And it's probably also going to be in our best interest to see about making some brass funnels as well, simply due to the fact that the andesite funnels cannot be filtered. The brass funnels do require the electron tubes. We'll see if we can do it without them. It might be possible. If not, though, it probably isn't going to be that difficult for us to get the electron tubes. Redstone we can buy, and if I'm not mistaken, I think nether quartz is available in the nether in this pack. But for now, let's take the mechanical belt here, and one of the first things I want to test is whether or not using a funnel, I can extract from a tier 1 buyer like this and move items to where I want them to go. I think we should be able to make that work if we were to grab some more shaft. I think we can place shaft down like this, and then let's say like this, and we'll get rid of the grass in the middle there. And for those who don't know, the way the belts work here is you just right-click them onto 2 shaft, like that, and this is now a belt. And if we apply rotational energy to one of these 2 shafts, the belt should start moving. So if I put this here, and we spin it one way, it's going to go into the funnel. If we shift right-click, it will spin the other way, and look at that, it's going to extract the andesite from the tier 1 buyer, which is perfect. We want to do that for multiple different resources, and look at that, we get a ton more of them as a reward, which is perfect. And so what I think I'll do here is quickly get another tier 1 buyer, because if we're going to make the basic mechanism, we need 1 for wood, and we need 1 for andesite. We also need 1 for iron. So let's quickly see if we can't make 2 more tier 1 buyers to set this all up. Alright, so not too long later, I've made 2 more tier 1 buyers, and I've also made a seller as well. This is the opposite of a buyer and can sell up to 64 items per second, which I think is going to be way more than we are going to make anytime soon. But I kind of want to start at the end and maybe work backwards in terms of automating this. So I'm going to set it up, and then we can look at cleaning it up afterwards if that's something that we feel like we need to do. But for now, we'll throw down a seller right about here, and we're going to pump items directly into that seller. Now, in terms of automating the deployers, it is better to have the deployers deploy directly onto a conveyor belt as opposed to having them deploy onto depots like we did before. And so I think what we want to do is we want to have 3 spaces for belts. I also think that we should put the belt 1 up, not in the ground like we did last time. So let's do, at the very least, something like this, and we'll have this run from here to here. I think we do probably actually want this to be at least 1 longer now that I mention it, because I don't think that you can have a deployer on the same piece of belt that you have a funnel on. So we probably want it to go something like that, and then we'll have deployers here, here, and here, like that. And of course, we'll rotate those not like that, ideally like this, so that they all face the same way. That way we can just run shaft power into one of the sides, and that's going to allow all 3 of these to run. Now, we might actually, now that I've put this down, want to put this down sideways, because I'm thinking about the way this is actually going to work. And I think what we might want to do is have maybe this here, move this belt actually to go this way, and that way we can build the automation for what's going to go into each deployer this way, which is what I was thinking of doing initially. So we do also want to have at least 1 gap after the deployers, because in this pack there is a chance, as we saw earlier, that we don't actually get the basic mechanism. And if we don't get the basic mechanism, we don't want to pump that into the cellar because it can't be sold. And so instead we want that to go into a different chest. So here we can do the exact same thing. We can have 1, 2, 3 like that, and we can use our hammer to right-click on the bottom and change those around. Now what we're going to do is we're going to automate the production of all 3 of the items needed here. I guess all 4 of the items, because we do need to send planks to the beginning of the line. But the other items that we need are the andesite alloy, the shaft, and the cogwheel. And thankfully, most of those are kind of interoperable, and those are all going to pump into that deployer. So I think we probably want to have andesite funnels going into each deployer like this, and then we probably want to have 3 belts kind of coming off of that. So if I put down some shaft like this, we're going to have belts coming in this way once we've made the product. The product that we should probably start with, though, is wood, because I think that's going to be the easiest one for us to produce. However, we are a little bit light on platform space here, and I have built this kind of right up at the edge of our platform. And so real quick, let me get another building wand here, and let's extend this out like this. Again, making sure not to extend the dirt. And once we've got some more space here, we want to pump onto this belt. So we want to have our saws down like this, I'm fairly certain if we get these spinning in the right direction, they will just deposit things directly onto that belt. We might be able to test this actually using our hand crank. If I were to go ahead and put a log onto here, I think we can then potentially use the crank to test this. That does work. And then if we move the crank over to here, I think we can do the same thing again. And I believe that's going to place it onto the belt. It's not. Okay, apparently this does work, but these both have to be spinning. So the belt has to be spinning and the mechanical saw has to be spinning. But I think this should work. I guess we should probably run some shaft over here to give this a test. But if that does work, that means that we can then just use our tier 1 buyer here to feed into this mechanical saw. And I guess for that, we probably just want to have our mechanical buyer down, and then I guess just 2 belts kind of feeding into the saw. So if we put a funnel here and we put our buyer, let's say here, I think that's the minimum distance that we can do if we're going to go with a very short 2 wide belt like this. And if we do, let's say this and this, we can then put down a funnel right about here. And if we have that spin in the right direction, that should go ahead and buy logs. We can even put the logs in here to tell it to start buying those automatically, and then those are going to get sent through over, I believe, into the mechanical saw and then sent around. Now, we probably can test this if we get a chain drive down, because right now, obviously, we can't put multiple hand cranks on multiple machines and right-click them all at the same time, and we are going to need some chain drives in just a minute once we actually get the shaft power over here. And so real quick, let me get a bunch of strip logs, and let's quickly grab a bunch more of these andesite casings. We're going to need these for a lot of the setup that we're going to go for today. And with that, we can set up some of these chain drives. These are pretty nifty in that they're going to allow us to basically just keep the same rotational direction across a couple of different blocks. Specifically, if we do this, this, and this, we can then put down our hand crank. And if we spin that in one direction, you'll see all 3 of these spin in the same direction, which means that if I were to go and get a log, which I guess we can actually steal from here, we could even run, actually, we could run 2 more chain drives down, and if we've set this up correctly, it should work on the other belt as well here. Let me do 2 more of those, and if we do this and this, I think, oh, that doesn't work. They need to be going in the same direction, eh? So I could put one here, that would still spin in the same direction, but then I don't think I can do the one lower down, although what we might be able to do is we might be able to move this up by 1. I've buried this in the ground, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, we might be able to do this here and here with a belt in the exact same place, like this. Obviously now that belt should also rotate. I think this works. We might just need to move the buyer up by 1. So if I put this here, let's give that a test. If I shift right click, we see the log move over, the log gets cut the wrong way and then stops. That is not ideal. So I guess we want those in a different direction, but if we swap the direction, that works. That doesn't work. Okay, that almost works, but these are going the wrong way. We want these to go in a different direction to the direction that we're currently going in. Okay, so we want to, I guess, in that case, what we kind of want to do is we want to have a cogwheel down that's going to change the direction for us. So if we do something like this, we're going to have our chain drive down like this. We're then going to have a cogwheel here and a cogwheel here next to that initial cogwheel like this, and we'll put down some shaft here. And if we put down a hand crank here, does that work? I think that's going to change the direction, so they're going in different directions, which I think then means that if we put this down straight onto the saw, ideally not onto the belt, that should go in the right direction. Ignore the belt on the left for now, but you'll see that strip log totally works. Look at that. Nice. Okay, that is good. Now, obviously, right now, that's just going to go straight to the seller, which is not what we want, but eventually, once we have items in here, I believe that that should not happen, which is good. Okay, so on the other side here, we've done the exact same thing. So the shaft power does run through the mechanical saw, so we still have our chain drives and these cogwheels. So the cogwheels alternate the direction of rotation. So we're going to rotate clockwise here to make this belt go this way. And then this cogwheel changes it so that these saws spin the right way. And then over here, this kind of alternates it back so that this belt spins the right way. And now, if we shift right click, we can see all of the stuff moving in the right direction, which is perfect. And so now the planks do make their way over to here, and we just need to automate this part where we get all of the andesite alloy cogwheels and shafts to where they need to go. One small problem that we might run into here is that we do need to take some of these planks and send them elsewhere. So we're probably going to want to tweak this a little bit. Right now there's no buffer, but I think what we're going to want to do after we eat is we're going to want to add a buffer storage drawer so that we do have like a backlog of planks, which is going to cost us quite a bit in the early game because we don't have that much money. But I think eventually it really shouldn't be a problem for us. Essentially, I think that we should end up with like a drawer here, and then we'll put like another funnel onto that drawer. We might have to shimmy this over again by one to make that work, but I think we kind of want to have a situation where the planks go into here and then come out of the side, because we can then also take some of those planks off on multiple sides to use them in the creation of these cogwheels, which we then need to filter back around into some of these deployers. Okay, so a little bit of tweaking later, and I think this is a slightly better setup here. So we've gotten rid of the initial belt. We're now just using this funnel here as kind of a hopper to pull directly out of the buyer straight onto the saw, which pushes straight to the second saw. That's then being collected. We've added the oak drawer as an intermediary here, and then we've got the funnel on the other side. And again, right now, if we shift right click here, this works as intended. So the saws are spinning, planks are being made. Obviously right now, this is not working because we don't have any rotational energy going to the deployers, but I believe that this should work going forward. Real quick, one nifty thing that has been pointed out to me by the Twitch chat is that we can press F4 in this pack to enable free cam, and that keeps our character where they were, but it allows us to very easily kind of look around and examine our contraption here, which makes it a bit easier to try and diagnose stuff and kind of figure out what is going wrong and where. But now, real quick, what I think I would like to try and do is see if we can't get a compacting drawer, because if we're going to automate the production of andesite alloy, the most efficient way for us to do that right now is using the mechanical mixer. For that, though, we need iron nuggets. We could try and set up some kind of system where we craft the iron nuggets, but I think it is going to make a lot more sense for us to just take the raw iron that we have here. We're then going to use the bulk blasting from Create to turn that into iron ingots. And then after that, if we put those iron ingots directly into a compacting drawer, we should then be able to pull the iron nuggets out of that drawer, because the compacting drawer, for those who don't know, allows you to take out either ingots, blocks, or nuggets from it if you just put the ingots in, which makes it particularly useful for us in this scenario. The only tricky part about making it is that it requires 2 pistons. The pistons, of course, are going to require some redstone. Thankfully, we can buy redstone, albeit for a very expensive price, from the shop. And I think right now, our best bet is to run this through the squeezer from Integrated Dynamics. This is a pretty nifty little device for us to have in the early game, and it's surprisingly cheap to make. It's basically just iron. And so if we quickly craft a block of iron, like so, we should then, I think, have basically everything that we need to craft the squeezer. We can then place this down, let's say right about here. We can put the redstone in it, and then we have to jump on top of the squeezer to push it down, and once it's done, we should get some redstone. Nice, it looks like it did push it to an adjacent inventory. In this case, it chose the crafter, but that got us 10 redstone from the 1 redstone ore, which is substantially better than just placing it down and breaking it or just smelting it. And so now we just need some stone, which again, we can use andesite here, and I think we do have some andesite in here. We do indeed, although I should probably refrain from taking stuff out of this biome. In fact, let me break this, because this is definitely not going to stay here, and right now all it's doing is spending our money on andesite that we don't necessarily need, but we can go ahead and craft up 2 pistons with yet more planks and yet more cobblestone. Actually, we do need more cobblestone, and right now we do have some. Good, cool. Let's do 2 more of these, 1 and 2, and that should be, I think, everything for this drawer. Just as soon as we get 1 drawer to go in the middle, it does show a 2x1 drawer, but I think any drawer will work here, and I would be surprised if andesite doesn't work for this recipe. Color me surprised. I really thought that andesite would work as stone in that scenario. Nevertheless, we should be able to go ahead and throw some cobblestone into here, and once we have the 5 stone required, that should be everything for the compacting drawer, and that should kind of take care of turning iron into iron nuggets for us. Everything else here shouldn't be too difficult, I don't think. It's mostly a case of making the andesite alloy and then splitting that andesite alloy off into 2 separate locations. One that is going to run through a mechanical saw to make shaft automatically. We're then going to split that shaft. One set of shaft is going to go to the deployer. Another set of shaft is going to go through to the whisk that's going to make our cogwheels, and then the third lot of andesite alloy is just going to go directly through to its own deployer as well, and that should be basically everything taken care of. Let's see if we can't make this compacting door. We can, and if we put this down and we put some iron in it, you can see that the iron becomes available in block and nugget form, which is ideal. This is one of those situations where I think we might end up needing to get a brass funnel so that we can add some kind of filtering to the extraction, because I don't think we can filter with these andesite funnels, and we do need to specifically take out iron nuggets, not ingots or blocks. All right, so I've gone ahead and made another mechanical mixer and another basin and placed both of these down in line with our deployers. I've also used a couple of gearboxes over here to run the shaft power that's coming through the belt up and into these deployers. Right now we can't test this because we are overstressed, like there's too much stuff now connected to the system. Initially, I was thinking of using belts for all of this. However, the Twitch chat has pointed out that we do have pretty pipes installed, and it's fairly easy to craft. And so I think what we'll probably do is, for at least some of this setup, we will pivot to using those pipes to make automation just that little bit easier. To make these pretty pipes, we need some iron bars, which are super easy. We also need more redstone and some copper and some glass. That should be fine. We did make extra sand earlier for just such an occasion. Let's do this and this. And then in terms of copper, I'm going to go ahead and buy 16. That's fine. We've still got enough money in our account, so I'll throw that in there. And the way the pretty pipes work here, we do need to get some of these modules to allow us to customize the way the pretty pipes work. By default, they won't do anything on their own, but if we put in, for example, an extraction module, there are 3 different tiers, low, medium, and high. The higher the tier you go, the faster it will extract. We're going to start with the low extraction module, which is made with a piston, redstone, and a blank module. The blank module here does require nether quartz. Nether quartz we don't have. However, as I alluded to at the start of the pack, I'm fairly certain that if we build a nether portal, we should be able to head through, and I'm fairly certain that in this pack, the nether is not a void nether, so we should be able to go straight through and potentially just mine some nether quartz, which hopefully will find somewhat close to the portal. Depending on where we spawn as well, it might also not be a terrible idea for us to look at, I guess actually here we need a flint and steel, which we don't currently have. That is fine. Let me do this and this. I was going to say it might not be a terrible idea for us to look at getting some armor as well, depending on what things look like in the nether. But real quick, let's see if we're not anywhere near some nether quartz. All right, so we're not in immediate danger, which is good. And I do see glowstone right away as well, which is also good. I do not see any nether quartz though. However, I think we can probably get an iron pickaxe, come back, and potentially do some mining just down into the ground. Given that we have FTB Ultimine, it should be fairly easy to clear out large amounts of netherrack here, and so it should be pretty easy for us to find some nether quartz. Using FTB Ultimine here, if you hold the FTB Ultimine button, you can shift and scroll. And if you shift and scroll, you can go to Mining Tunnel. The Mining Tunnel is particularly useful for kind of creating large tunnels like this. Chet is right that we could press F4. I don't know, that totally does kind of work. It doesn't make it super easy to see the nether quartz. There's quite a bit of it actually on the bottom of this bit. There's also some kind of just on the other side of the wall here as well. This does make it tremendously easy though, actually, to scout out nether quartz. And I can also see that we've got like what looks like maybe a bastion, or maybe just oh no, yeah, this is a bastion over here, right? Okay, cool. That's fine. It looks like, though, if we just follow this through to the end here, or in fact, if we just do a hole straight through, there is some nether quartz kind of directly in front of us. Okay, let's do an F4 again. And then if instead of doing mining tunnel, if we shift and scroll down to small tunnel, I think that is just going to dig in a straight line. And then we should just be able to head through this way. And if our intel is correct, there should be some nether quartz right beneath us. Nice. We could probably do with more than 2 nether quartz. That doesn't seem like an awful lot. And so real quick, let me see if I can't get some more here, and then we'll head back and see about making some of these pretty pipes and their associated upgrades. All right, so we got 7 nether quartz, not a whole lot of nether quartz. 2 things we should do here, though. First things first, I'm going to do /set home, and I'm going to ideally set that home not in the abyss there. I'm going to put it, if I can, like right here, /set home, like that. Basically what that means is going forward, if we ever want to get back home, we can just do a quick /home. That will take us back here. It also means that if we find ourselves falling into the abyss, we can just type in /home, and if you've got through the 5-second cooldown, it will take you home. Of course, if you don't wait for the 5-second cooldown, you will just fall into the abyss and die. Thankfully, at the start of the playthrough, we did turn keep inventory on, and so we do get to keep all of our stuff, which is nice. Either way, now that we have nether quartz and glass, we should be able to go at pretty pipes and craft up our first batch of these. We're going to make quite a few because we're going to need them. And then from there, we should also be able to make a low extraction module. For that, we need one more piston, and we need, of course, this blank module, which is why we got the quartz in the first place. This does require some stone slabs. As per usual, I don't know if that's going to work with andesite slabs or not. Sometimes that works. In this scenario, that does not work, which is unfortunate, but again, that's not too big of a deal. We can go and smelt up yet more cobblestone, assuming that we have any, which apparently we do not. That is fine. Let me quickly do a little bit of cobblestone mining, and we'll see if we can get these pipes up and running. The idea here, by the way, is that we've got 3 deployers. We do have to do these in a specific order, so they do have to go andesite alloy first, then cogwheel, then shaft. And so we're going to use this basin to make the andesite alloy. That's going to get pumped into here. We're also going to send that andesite alloy across to a saw, the mechanical saw, and this second basin here is going to be used to make the cogwheel. So this recipe right here, we're going to combine planks and shaft in here to make the cogwheels. Those are going to get sent to this deployer. And then in the third deployer, we're just going to send the shaft, of course, that we get from the andesite alloy. So some of this andesite alloy is going to get cut up into shaft. That shaft is then going to get sent both here and here as well. And once we have that set up, we should be pretty much good to go. But for that, we need some stone. And 3 stone later, we can now go ahead and make our first blank module that will allow us to make almost the low extraction module, but it looks like, again, we are now out of redstone ore. That's fine. Let me buy a couple of redstone ore, and I'm going to put that into here. You'll see this is still in its depressed state. The reason for that is that we need to reset it. You can either do that with a lever or a button. Really, any redstone signal will work. If I do this, that will reset it. For now, I don't think we need this extra crafting table, so what I will do is I will just go ahead and put down another chest next to that squeezer, and so anything we make here should just get deposited directly into that chest. If I put this in, we can now go ahead and do some jumping, and as soon as the redstone is done, it gets put in there. We can press the button, trying very much so not to fall off the edge. I probably shouldn't have put that quite so close to the edge there, but we can just do this, and we can keep going until we have all of the redstone ore processed. Nice. There's 40 redstone. That should hopefully be enough for the time being. Boom and boom. And so the idea here is that we can now use these pipes to extract, hopefully, more easily. If we were to do something like this and have a pipe that kind of runs along like that, I'm fairly certain that we can put the low extraction module into this pipe by right-clicking. And now in here, you'll see there's a configuration panel for the low extraction module. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we should be able to configure that. What I mean by that is that in here, I think if we put the andesite alloy in, that's going to disallow andesite alloy. I want to change this to items in filter slots are allowed, and so I think that's only going to extract andesite alloy. We can, of course, test this. If we were to grab our engineer's hammer, we can pick up our hand crank, and if we were to, I guess, temporarily steal this as well, we can do this, and we can do this. Now, in here, if we add iron nuggets and andesite, we should be able to produce the andesite alloy, and then hopefully if the pretty pipes are working as intended, we should see that andesite alloy get sent around into that deployer. Let's give this a go. We're going to throw these in, and we're going to give it a crank. Already, it's a good sign that we're not actually extracting any iron or andesite, but look at that. As soon as andesite alloy is made, it gets extracted and sent around to the deployer. I am a little bit concerned as to how well these pretty pipes are going to function if there's nowhere to send the item. Essentially, what I mean by that is that if we put something in here like this, my worry is that if this is full, I don't want the pipe to spew. So if we put something in there, it looks like it is thankfully smart enough to not extract the andesite alloy if there is nowhere to send it. So it's leaving the andesite alloy inside of the basin because the inventory that we're sending it to is full. If I take this out, it is going to send it around. I think there is still a chance of spewage happening. Basically, I think if this is almost full. If it's at like 63 andesite alloy out of 64, it's possible that there could be like 2 in here. And I think at that point, it is possible that 1 gets sent over. And if it has nowhere to go, it might end up kind of bouncing around for a bit and then spew out. So occasionally we might end up with a little bit of spewage, but I think for the time being, that is completely fine and not really something that we have to worry about on a large scale. And so this does work, which is good. There is a round robin upgrade, this thing right here. To make the round robin upgrade, we would need to get an arrow, and to get an arrow, we'd either have to fight a skeleton, or we'd have to craft it with a flint, a stick, and a feather. The feather we could potentially get from a chicken, and I have been told by the pack maker that we can use the dough here from Create to get eggs, so we can use dough, which you make from wheat flour, which you make from wheat, to make eggs, but then we'd have to try and get a chicken from the egg and then kill the chicken to get the feather. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. Alternatively, for the time being, we could kind of forego the round robin upgrade and instead just have this kind of go this way. What we don't want is connections like this. If I'm not mistaken, we should be able to make the pretty pipes wrench here. That does require some red dye. Right now we don't have any red dye, but we do have, I believe, the ability to buy bones from the store, and that gives us the ability to get bone meal, which immediately gives us red dye. Now my inventory is completely full here. Let me dump some stuff into a chest, but those poppies should be red dye central. They are indeed. And then back over here, we now just need some iron ingots to make the pretty pipes wrench. And with this, I believe we can right click there to disconnect that pipe, because of course we want the andesite alloy going into the mechanical saw. And then from there, we want that to go into the deployer and also into this basin. So if I put the mechanical saw down like that, I do wonder how this will work. I'm pretty sure that this should send to both of those. I think it's going to send to the nearest one first, which I think means that it's going to start by sending it to the mechanical saw, if I'm not mistaken. It does. Then, with this on the mechanical saw, we should then be able to crank that, of course. So if we take our hand crank and crank it, that is going to process it. I think from there, it should just stay on the saw if it doesn't have anywhere to go. Never mind, it does get sent off. I guess we could have that go directly into a drawer again, like we've got over there. If I quickly grab a drawer here, and we grab an andesite funnel, I think that we can probably do this, and that's just going to pump the shaft directly into here, and then from there we could use another extraction module to extract from here and send that shaft to the 2 places it's needed. It is needed both up in this deployer and also in this basin right here. So for that we'd have to kind of put one down right about there and then disconnect that to connect those both up. The system we're setting up here is a little janky, but it should work, and the only trouble with it really is that we don't have that round robin upgrade. The round robin upgrade would allow us to evenly distribute the items between the 2 different locations. With the setup that we currently have, I think that it's going to send things to one destination until it's full, and then send things to another destination. I'm kind of hopeful that when this saw has 1 alloy, that this might think it's full. Let me give that a try though. If I crank this a bit more, I want to know if it keeps sending andesite alloy to the saw, even though there's already andesite alloy in the saw, or if it's kind of smart enough. It is smart enough to not send the andesite alloy always to the saw. That's actually very helpful to us, because it means that whilst there is andesite alloy being processed, it's going to fill up this deployer over here, and once the deployer is full and there's something on the saw, it's not going to send stuff anywhere, which is actually perfect. Alright, so not too long later, I've made some more pipes and some more low extraction modules. So over here now, we should be able to extract the planks from here. Again, just to be safe, I am going to add planks to the filter and change it to allow, just in case anything else ends up in here. I don't want everything getting clogged. And then over here, we've put down a drawer and put down a belt funnel as well into this. And so we should be able to put down an extraction here, and again, put in the shaft and set that to allow. I also right-clicked the shaft onto the recipe filter there, so it should only make shaft, I'm fairly certain. And so now I think things are looking pretty good here. The planks should be being sent around automatically. The shaft is also going to get sent around automatically. Andesite, of course, we need to buy and then send into the basin automatically. That should be fine. And in fact, we might be able to do something similar to what we've done with the tier 1 buyer here, but for andesite. In that if we take the tier 1 buyer, can I put that like right next to this, like right here, and then put a funnel down right here? I think I can, and if we right-click this, I think it's going to extract into the basin. Again, hoping it doesn't over-extract, we can kind of give that a test, let me grab a full stack of andesite, and I'm going to put basically all of the andesite into here. We're then going to lose some money again because we're going to put this in. It's going to start buying andesite. That does drop in, and you'll see, thankfully, that once it fills up to 64, it does not continue to drop in, which is perfect, and so we're not going to spew, which is great. So that is almost andesite alloy taken care of. Of course, we do still need to get the create shaft power over to here to get all of this running, but right now, this just needs iron nuggets automated. Once we have the iron nuggets automated, we should be good to go. When I get close to this, it starts giving me andesite, which I'm not quite sure why that happens, but that's fine. We just won't get close. Let's take this guy. We're going to put this guy down over here. I do wonder if I can have, I don't know if I can have two funnels both pumping into this. I might be able to. If we could potentially do this and then have another funnel here. Of course, the problem with the funnel here would be that it wouldn't actually just get nuggets, which would not be ideal. However, thankfully, what we can do instead is put this here, put down a pipe, and if we get another extraction module, we can, of course, filter the extraction module to only pull the nuggets, which would be ideal. And then we just need to automate the production of iron, which we'll get to in just a second. Everything else, I think, is good, though. So the alloys here are going to get pulled out. Over here, they're going to get turned into shaft. Then they're going to get sent around, combined up with the planks to make cogwheels. Those cogwheels are then going to be done nothing with for now. I guess we do need to extract from here and send that up to the top center. So disconnect that and quickly check that we don't have what it takes to make some more pipes. We do. Fantastic. And if we just run those up to here, again, making sure that we disconnect here, and then do this, that does require one more item extraction module, but that's going to extract the cogwheels up to the middle. And so now, I think we're almost good to go. For now, I'll put this in here. Again, I'm still not quite sure why that's giving me andesite whenever I get close at all. Also, please stop doing that. Take the andesite I already have. Don't spend my money because we're very low already. Let me quickly get the actual shaft power from here routed around over to here, and let's see if we can't get this to kind of somewhat work. All right, I think that we are onto something. So we have a gearbox here, taking this rotation and changing it to come sideways. Then we're going back the other way again, over to here. Then we have a gearbox that goes down to 2 cogwheels. It doesn't matter which way the mechanical mixers spin, so long as they spin, everything is fine, so these cogwheels are working. We then have another gearbox over here, that's turning it sideways here. Then we have a vertical gearbox and another vertical gearbox, and that connects up to our pre-existing setup that we set up earlier. And it looks like that, for the most part, is working. This right here is missing one more gearbox. Of course, right now, all of our stuff is going to the planks. I'm hopeful that as soon as we craft up, like, one more gearbox here, that should stop happening. Essentially, if we make that a vertical gearbox and we put this down right here, that is going to overstress the system. That's fine. We can always look at adding more water wheels in the future. For now, let's just slow this right down to see if it works. Yes. Okay. So the good news is this first deployer here is deploying the andesite alloy. And so now we have incomplete basic mechanism, and it's not going to go further here until it gets the cogwheel that it needs. And so that is where this part of the equation comes in. And, oh, I didn't actually connect this up. So there shouldn't be planks here. Not quite sure how a plank made it to there. It's possible that a second ago we had like a pipe that was connecting temporarily. That should be fine though. Let me get this connected up as well. I completely forgot that that needed connecting to the setup. It should, hopefully, just be a case of making one, if not a few gearboxes here and running shaft down to it. So if I do a vertical gearbox that goes down like this, we have shaft power here. I guess actually you can also do cogwheels for a lot of this, in that we could probably run cogwheels kind of over and then over one more. So one more cogwheel there would get the job done for us. For that, I need my planks, which for some reason keep getting shift clicked into here when I mean to pull them back into my inventory, which is not ideal. But if we do that and this, that should then work. Whether that's spinning in the right direction or not, I actually don't know. I get the feeling that it's probably spinning backwards, but I think that looks like it's working. It's very, very, very slow, but we do get quite a bit of shaft at a time. 6 to be precise, and so hopefully that works. That's extracting the shaft. The shaft, initially, I think is going to go here first. It is. That's going to make the cogwheel. The cogwheel isn't going to get extracted because we've not actually crafted that upgrade yet, but if we make another extraction module, which is another piston, plus another blank module, the blank module needs stone slabs. Stone slabs, thankfully, we can now make because we made extra stone earlier. Let's do just one of those for now. Boom and boom. And if I put that in down here, again, I'm going to go ahead and set it to allow and cogwheels. That should bring the cogwheel up. It does. And once the cogwheel is in there, you have, again, got on planks, which you shouldn't have. But once, again, that was probably before I filtered it, which is fine. This has made large cogwheels, which is bad. Let me do this. Okay, I might have to break this pipe temporarily to do that because I want to filter that to only make the regular cogwheels, not the large cogwheels. Let's do this. Let's disconnect that. Let's take the large cogwheels out and let's put some shaft back in like this, along with some planks. That should just make only small cogwheels now, and those small cogwheels should get extracted and sent up to here. Then they should get deployed. They do. Fantastic. And then here, the final step of the whole setup here is just more shaft, right? So we just put shaft in here like that. That should get deployed. And the reason that doesn't work is beyond me. I don't know why those first two aren't working, actually, but the other ones should. Why are you ending up over here? Hold on, let me clear my inventory a little bit, because they shouldn't get here. Unless this is like the broken one? Also, it looks like we need a funnel for this, but that's fine. Let me pick the auto seller up. We're going to move that one block up from where it's currently at. Let me do, oh gosh, we're getting so much stuff. Let me put the auto seller here, and then let me put the funnel here, like that. Then we can take these cogwheels off. I'm not quite sure where they came from either. That works, and those did get sold. That's good. Here I have 20 of them, so I can put all 20 of those on there, and all 20 of those will get sold, give us an influx of $5,000. The incomplete mechanisms, I'm not quite sure where they came from. Again, there is a chance that the setup does fail, a 1 in 5 chance that it fails. And so that's where another funnel would be quite useful, actually, in terms of like pulling those off. Let me see here. Oh no, that's probably where the cogwheel came from, because I'm pretty sure that the chance to fail, the 20% chance to fail, gives you a 20% chance to get random salvage. I think the random salvage is usually stuff like shafts and cogwheels and stuff like that. So we do want to set up a thing that takes those off, but that probably shouldn't happen all that often. I think most of the time it should work, and it's only occasionally that it shouldn't work. So what are we missing here? We've got planks, we're missing andesite alloy. Of course, the reason that we're missing andesite alloy is that we don't have iron nuggets automated. Right now we do have a decent amount of iron, and we can put that iron in over here. We didn't make that extraction module. Let me quickly check to see if we don't have what it takes to make that extraction module. I feel like we're going to be missing cobblestone. It is always cobblestone. We should really look at some point sooner rather than later at automating the mining of cobblestone here so that we don't have to keep doing this manually, because it does take quite a bit of time and we have needed quite a bit of cobblestone. And so let's do one more piston and boom. That gets us hopefully our final low extraction module. We're going to put this in here and we're going to filter that to extract exclusively iron. Oops, stop giving me the andesite. To extract iron nuggets. Nice. Now, if we put our iron back into here, we should hopefully see that extracting. Oh, I think I did this last time we played with pretty pipes. I'm fairly certain that we need at least 2 pipes here. I think if you put in just the 1 pipe, it will not work. And annoyingly, that would appear to be our last pipe. So we are, in fact, going to have to make more pretty pipes. Thankfully, we have the stuff to make it. Let me do this and this. I think that remains pre-configured. It does. So you can't extract in a 1 block space. You do need to have 2 pipes at least, 1 to extract and 1 to insert. That's going to make some andesite alloy now. That andesite alloy is going to get sent around to both places. I think over here we're already pretty full on andesite alloy. We've got 13. That's fine. Over here, shaft is being made. That's good. The shaft should get extracted. It does. Again, right now, I think all of the shaft is going to go down into here. Thankfully, basins can only hold 16 of each item. They can hold more, but they will only ever automatically put in 16 of each item. So there should never be any more than 16 shaft into here, which means once that fills up, the excess shaft should make its way up to this deployer. You'll see there that we got an andesite alloy, which is not ideal. There's 2 things we could do here. We could try and do a brass funnel. I'm also wondering, if I put a pipe there, and I put down an extraction module on that pipe, and up until now, we've been doing allow shaft. I wonder if we put the pipe down, leave it in disallow mode, and set it to disallow the basic mechanisms, if that would pull off everything that's not a basic mechanism. Let me try that real quick. I just need to get a bunch of stuff because we don't have any of the stuff required to make an extraction module. and a little bit of nether quartz. Later, we have another low extraction module. So in here, I'm going to set this to disallow these. So what we'll do is we'll go in here and we'll say basic mechanism. So now anything that's not a basic mechanism shouldn't go into the cellar because it can't be sold, and it should get extracted out of the side. So 4 out of 5 times, it should make the basic mechanism. It should make 4 of them, which it is. And you'll see our money is looking like finally it's starting to go up, which is good. And then 1 in 5 times, it will produce random junk like that. That random junk gets extracted. Look at that. Nice. Cool. 1 basic mechanism did make its way in. That's just because of the fact that we didn't have it filtered initially. But that does work. We could just put a trash can down here. The trash can would allow us to just delete this stuff. For now, I'll leave this here because we might end up needing some of this stuff for crafts and whatnot. But this is actually working. The only problem, I think, really is one of speed. I think going over 48 is going to end us there. It does. So 48 is the maximum speed we can do currently. So we could put down more water wheels. That would also work. We could look at potentially getting a steam engine. But, chat, this does work. The only part of this now that is not automated is iron. And I don't think iron's going to be too difficult to automate either. If we want to automate the production of iron, I think we just need an auto buyer, which we have. That auto buyer is going to buy the raw iron. That raw iron then needs to be smelted, and to smelt the raw iron, we just need to use, I think, the encased fan. The encased fan here can blow lava. We can do the bulk blasting to blow lava onto the raw iron, and that is going to produce the iron ingot. Those iron ingots then just need to be pumped into the drawer, and that should be good. We are very low on iron. Let me buy like a stack of iron here, and I'm going to smelt this the old-fashioned way for now in here and in here, because what we could also do with doing is crafting some storage downgrades for some of these drawers. We've got so much wood. We've got so much wood backed up here that we do not need to have. These can hold 2,048 items, by the way, so we're almost actually full on that. It's actually surprising we've got so much money given how much wood we're storing in the drawer there. You'll see some of these planks do get bounced back. That's because the basin will only ever hold 16. That isn't a problem currently, but again, once the drawer fills up, that will become a bit of a problem because the planks will get stuck in there. Again, for the most part, I think it's fine. You'll see the shaft is backing up there as well, which means excess shaft should and is making its way up into here, which is good, and things are being made. This is actually working, and we do have money coming in. It's almost fully unlimited. The only thing that is not unlimited about it is the fact that we don't have that encased fan to automate the production of iron. For that, we just need a propeller, which we can make, and 1 more of these andesite machineries, which I believe we should definitely be able to make if we grab our hammer. The reason my chest has split, by the way, I had a double chest at the start of the episode, and now we've got a 2 single chest. I right-clicked it with an engineer's hammer. It rotated one of the chests, but not the other ones, and it kind of created this awkward situation that we find ourselves in right now, which is not ideal. I think for this, what we should be able to do is use one of our depots, and it's probably going to be in our best interest to just use pretty pipes again here to make things a little easier. But if we put the encased fan down, let's say right about here, but ideally facing forward like this, we can then put lava down between the fan and the depot. And we do have a bucket of lava available in our chest. Perfect. We can put that down right about here. I also believe at this point in time we can go and get lava from the nether as well. And the idea here is that as soon as we run shaft power to this, like this, and this is actually very useful because I've put it down in exactly the right place. Would you look at that? If we do this and this, that is going to overstress our system. That's fine. Let's try 32 again. That works just fine. And now, if we were to put raw iron onto here, assuming that the fan is spinning in the right direction, which I think it is given the particle effects there, that should just turn that raw iron directly into iron ingots. It does. And then from there, we just need to get those into the compacting drawer. All right, so I have put down a few pipes here. Again, 1 pipe won't work, but if we do this and this, we can then, of course, hopefully, whitelist this to iron and allow. And I'm hopeful that that might work. Do I have to put this in first? I do. Interesting. That might be a problem. But as long as we make iron faster than we lose it, it should be fine, I think. And hopefully, if we do the exact same thing we've been doing elsewhere, I think we can probably just put a netherrack there, put a tier 1 buyer here, have that tier 1 buyer extract via a funnel like this. Again, right click with the hammer to change the direction. And back in here, if we just set that to raw iron again, we should be good to go. Of course, we've used all the raw iron, so let me quickly buy one more, and let's do this. And now hopefully, I think, we have fully automated. It took a minute, but I think we've fully automated the production line here. Annoyingly, it looks like it is going to smelt one iron at a time, which there's definitely a better way of doing this, I think, potentially with pretty pipes or something. But for now, I think that's actually fine. I think we're producing the iron faster than it's being used because we only use one at a time in terms of nuggets, and we make 9 at a time in terms of nuggets from this. So that is, I think, just fine. Of course, really the only thing we'd like to do at this point is potentially look at increasing the stress units we have so that we can increase the speed of the entire setup. We can look at making those aforementioned downgrades. These are made just with storage drawers and with iron. And so real quick, if we take some of these spare chests, we can craft those into drawers, and then we can craft up a couple of downgrades. I'm going to put one in here. That changes the drawer so that instead of being able to hold 2,048 items, it can only hold 64, which I think is ideal. I would have done it to this drawer as well, but we've already fully backed up on 2,000 planks, and so at this point I don't think there's much point at all in doing it there. You'll see we are spewing, which is not ideal. The tooltip for the extraction module does say medium and high tiers prevent oversending. And you know what? It's really not hard to make a higher tier extraction module, so it probably isn't a terrible idea for us to upgrade all of these, given how much iron we have and given the fact that we're making iron automatically now. If we upgrade that to a medium extraction module, possibly it's not going to oversend as much as it did before. Let me change that to allow, and let me, I guess, just take a plank out of here, actually, and put that in like this. So hopefully now that's not going to oversend like it was doing a second ago. And yeah, it's probably in our best interest to maybe do that with all of our extraction modules, just quickly upgrade them. The iron here is just going to keep going. It's actually maybe quite useful, actually, that we're only smelting one iron at a time, because this drawer can hold a lot of iron. And so we can't, for some reason, put iron downgrades in here. I really thought you would be able to. But with this functional drawer here, we're just going to keep making iron. And so that's kind of fine because we do need iron for crafting a lot of stuff, but it does mean that from like a cash flow perspective, we're going to keep spending money on iron even when we don't need to, which is not ideal. Again, let's just go ahead and upgrade this as well so we're not oversending stuff. I don't want to end up in a situation where we are spewing iron everywhere. Again, we can just take, I guess, 4 of those and do a quick upcraft like this. And between episodes, I think I'll probably go ahead and upgrade basically all of our extraction modules to extraction modules tier 2. Just to make sure that they all don't oversend, because that would not be ideal. You should be sending, you've got to have an empty hand annoyingly to do this and this. I want you to only send iron nuggets, please. The iron ingots should not be in there. I also desperately need to upgrade our storage situation, and I need to empty out my inventory way more often because we are just full of junk. We've got way too much junk in our inventory at all times, but chat, I think finally this is working. You'll see that we are gaining money. We're up at $61,000. No longer do we have to bother with chopping down trees to get cash. This setup can almost certainly be cleaned up a little bit. It is a little bit haphazard, but it does work. We're automatically buying logs, turning it into planks. We're automatically buying andesite, turning it into andesite alloy. We're automatically buying iron, turning that into the same andesite alloy. That alloy is being used to make both cogwheels and to make shaft. The shaft also, of course, used to make cogwheels, and all of that is culminating in the production of these basic mechanisms, and those basic mechanisms are being sold for almost triple the price that we paid for them in the first place, hence why we are gaining money through this entire setup. Next time, we'll come back and we'll continue on. We'll look at more of the quest line here. We'll look at progressing on and actually using the rubber and the creosote that we're backing up on over in here to progress through to the end of chapter 1, and we'll look at whatever automation is needed for the next chapter, which looks like we're going to start working on the automation of compressed mechanisms, which require, of course, their own custom recipe format and their own machines. But for now, that's going to do it for this episode of Forever Factory.